Hello. Right, we've came down to Wigan for the Building MHEC Roadshow. So we told you that we were going to be going on the road, going to visit some of our mental health and exercise coaches all across the country. And today we're down in Wigan. Bernard, why did you want to come down?
Because somebody needed a driver. No, just joking. But no, it was nice to be able to come down and then also meet with the owner of this gym, Stephen Wild, who's one of our graduate coaches, and interview him to hear about all the amazing things that he's up to working in this local community. So it's been really nice to come down and have the opportunity to be able to share his story as part of this episode.
Hello. Welcome back to the Building MHEC vlog. We have travelled down to Wigan today for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that we are hosting our MHEC Academy gym instructor and personal training diploma. So me and Ben have travelled down from sunny Scotland to be able to have a look at our team running that day, not to keep an eye on them, we promise. Sophie, it's her first day delivering solo. And then we have just hired Georgia as well, who's going to be shadowing the 2 days. So we're really excited to be getting some behind the scenes stuff of that over the course of today. But the main reason that we've came back is very kindly one of our MHEC graduate coaches, Stephen. He's hosting the diploma in his gym. And we've been wanting to have a chat with Stephen for a very, very long time now about all of the amazing stuff that he's been doing. He's worked alongside us for quite a few years now, and he's just doing some absolutely amazing stuff within his community. You said something yesterday. Was it yesterday or today? About how not to like embarrass you now, but about how if we were to kind of create or if we were to visualize the exact sort of thing that we want an MHEC coach to be doing within their communities, it's what Stephen's doing now.
Yeah, 100%. I can't remember exactly what I said, but along the lines of just being able to pick up the tools and frameworks that we teach our coaches, put his own spin on it, and then just absolutely nail the delivery, the inroads that he's making within the community, other partner organisations that Stephen's working with, which I'm sure we're going to get into in just a bit. But it's really, really cool to see, and it's something that Dan and I have wanted to do for a long, long time. So it's great to finally be down with you, mate.
It's good to have you as well. Sunny Wigan's here.
We brought the weather with us.
We brought the weather with you.
We did bring the weather. So we are going to chat with Stephen for the next half an hour or so. So we really think that you'll be interested in this conversation. So if you are thinking about transitioning into the fitness industry, if you are a personal trainer or a gym owner who's a little bit lost when it comes to their direction, if you feel like there's so much more that you should be doing and could be doing when it comes to helping people within their communities, when it comes to potentially adopting a mental health first approach, if any of that sounds like you, then you're going to want to listen to this because Stephen's been there and he's done that, and he's now reaping the rewards after what he probably won't mind sharing soon, after a lot of fucking hard work behind the scenes. So Stephen, I'll pass over to you, mate. I'll let you introduce yourself, and why don't you just give everyone a little bit of a background on you and how you got into the health and fitness industry.
Yeah, so my background was I was a professional rugby league player from the age of 17. I did 18 years. And I was in a professional environment, for a long, long time. And kind of coming to the end of my career, or the back end of my career, it was one of them that I loved the fitness industry. It was more about helping people, and nutrition kind of stood out for me to start off with. And I just, as I started to get into and took the normal PT courses, what was out there, started to look at nutrition, mindset, and pretty much jumped 2 feet in. I know we just had a convo then. I didn't know really what I was signing up for. I opened my gym. I left, in September, October, finished professional, and had the gym open in Feb. And I knew I could train people. I knew I could help people. I didn't really understand the business side and marketing and stuff. And that was just over 11 years ago. So we've been in this facility for 11 years. And in that 11 years, we've kind of transitioned, or I've kind of grown. As I said, I went more into nutrition side of it, and then probably 2016, so I've been open a couple of years, started to find out that it wasn't just about exercise that people were coming to me or coming to our PTs about. It was more about health and well-being and the mental health, and that was the idea. That's where, for me, before I even met you guys, was I wanted a mental health and exercise program, or something that wasn't about abs or performance or six packs, whatever we see on social media. It was about making someone feel better, And then 2019, I opened the Mind Body Health program. It was my kind of vision of what it looked like. There was no structure to it. It was just, I was working with a group of people at the time that I started to help away from the gym, and I didn't really have any qualifications myself around mental health. People were telling me that I need to become, a psychologist or something, a counsellor, and I didn't really want to become a counsellor. And I think, luckily I had a lot of friends in counselling, so I kind of brought them into to do the counselling side. But there was no real structure in it. It was just kind of on the fly with each individual. I then locked down it and kind of put everything into a spin like everybody else. The gym in the Wigan area we got put into tears, so we was literally in 14 months, we was only open 2 months, and that kind of crashed our clientele, our memberships over that 12 months, and it was a rebuilding phase for us. And in the lockdown, I met someone called the mental health PT, which kind of jumped out straight away for me. We was on a mentorship, and just listening to Dan just talk, it was like, that's me. And then he disclosed that he was setting up he had a qualification ready to come out. Again, which was all over me. And I remember sitting at the computer when you launched. I think, I was like ready to go, waiting for a pre-launch thing. And I think I was probably one of the first 10 or 20 people to sign up. And it's been a journey. It's been a lot of ups and downs, I'm going to say, because you two know the story, but it's been one worthwhile. And I think, just having the MHEC brand behind the Mind Body Health brand, especially over these last 2 years, has helped us confidence-wise to promote what we do, and having that backing from you guys has helped massively for us.
Cheers, mate. I appreciate that. That was nice. It's interesting because I remember the first time we chatted about it, and one of the first things you said was, I want to open a mental health gym. And then that's when I told you about the award. And what I loved about that was, I'd obviously been preparing to launch the award. I knew that there was interest, but for someone who was actually, a gym owner, or for someone who had, a client base, and for someone who was already deeply passionate about that, it wasn't like, oh, this is like a mental health course, so that could be an extra string to my bow. You were already like, no, this is what I want to do, which then gave us a ton of confidence when we went to launch as well. Tell us a little bit about the transition then from sport then into running the gym, because a lot of people may not know this, but when it comes to the award, we typically work with individuals within the fitness industry. It's about maybe like 95% of individuals that do the award are gym instructors or PTs, but literally as of yesterday, we've now been given the all clear to be able to start selling the award now to sports coaches, branching out into the sport and physical activity sector. Tell us a little bit about what was the link between you taking part in professional sport and then being so interested in the mental health side of things when it came to you.
Yeah, I think
opening the gym.
I think I'm always going to say I'm an older generation with the sport. It's rugby's changed so much over probably the last 10 years or so since I've left. But I got into sport at 7-8 year old because I was low in confidence. I was a small, skinny kid, and sport was one of them where I could express myself and feel good about myself. I didn't know that at the time. It was just I enjoyed it as a kid. So I did all sports, and being in that rugby environment, especially when I was at the Wigan, which is probably one of the biggest teams in the country, it's especially now the mental health side is probably more important than actually the physical side. And at the time, it was just kind of coming in where they were bringing in specialists, and it was not all about going into the gym or how fit you was. It was actually how can we get that extra 1% out of this person. And it's not being in the gym; it's actually the mental side of it. So I've been around coaches, I've been around people, for 18 years that kind of had a big influence on what I wanted to. I didn't want to run a normal gym. I didn't want to just, count reps and run classes. We know that's a part of the gym program, but I actually wanted to look at, different ways of helping people, if that's, nutrition, if that's lifestyle, if that's mental, and take pockets of what I've learned, from the coaches I've learned over X amount of years. And I think that kind of man management is a big thing. And you can't treat everybody the same. And I think having that personal touch with someone, knowing what kind of motivates them to do the stuff, or what helps them is different for everyone. And I think that's we talk about bespoke side of fitness, but actually that's what bespoke side of what we do as an MHEC coach is, that we actually sit and listen to the person and actually try to build and support around the individual. And that's what we're probably seeing in rugby now, more so now. They're investing so much on more the individual rather than the collective team, because they can get a lot more out of that individual, which is going to benefit the team. And the community side, I think, something that MHEC promotes a lot is actually having a safe environment for people to feel safe and share things. We call it our team environment. Again, that rugby environment is where you're supported every day or every week by a collective number of people who's on a journey the same as you. So we want to kind of almost them pillars in that and kind of build the program around it. I think I go back to that. I started to do that and I just didn't know how that looked in my head. And then, thankfully the MHEC course does that for you. It gives you the pillars, it gives you the structure on that. And it takes a lot of the trial and error that I was probably 2 years in of and not getting anywhere with, how it looked like, how we could teach and things like that. I think the best thing about COVID was we kind of got that online approach and the online learning. We was printing books off and textbooks and sitting in the gym, taking a lot of time. So we kind of, that hybrid approach kind of started to come out. And again, the MHEC program, kind of converted that, how we could kind of coach in an hybrid coach as well.
Yeah. It's brilliant. Some journey you've been on, right?
Yeah.
It's been class. And it's like, obviously knowing you, just knowing how much you've learned from that has been really key to get to where you are just now. And you've also kind of touched on some of the issues that we've faced when it comes to kind of getting things off the ground. You mentioned earlier on, people saying, oh, well, you should be a therapist or a counsellor. That was one of the biggest things that we faced when people have been like, well, is this safe? Like, how can you do that this way? So I think the next part that I wanted to ask you about was that almost lack of understanding around what mental health is, the links between mental health and exercise. How much of a barrier do you think that that's faced with you coming up with these trials and errors and getting things off the ground? Maybe not looking at it from the structure and delivery point of view, but trying to get that message out to the general public in your local community around mental health. I know that that's something that we've struggled with, but how have you found that journey in terms of trying to increase the awareness and understanding of people that would come into the gym?
Yeah, it's still a challenge now, even though we find it's getting better every year. I think the industry's getting a little bit better every year from, when we first met 4 or 5 years ago, whenever we started the award. We're now starting seeing the industry talk a little bit more about mental health, which helps us. The big people in the industry talk about it, helps us. But it's been a good probably six years of trying to promote ourselves in a different way. But and we still find it now, we're automatic going against the grain of everything, the fitness industry teach, the 8-week challenges, the summer bodies coming up, everything's about how much we can, the fast fix, how can we throw a fast 6-week, 8-week challenge in. And that's a scary part for us. And, we talked about it, that a lot of coaches revert back to that because they're not getting the clients in big numbers like we used to do. What we found is that we're pretty much steady each month with a set number of clients, in which we're happy with that. But it's still a challenge now, and I think it's just trusting your message and trusting the branding that we've built. And probably the last 6 months, 8 months, we now get people approach us for mental health help and not the typical I want to lose weight help, which is good because it shows that our message is finally getting through to the right people that actually want the help.
Yeah, because that's actually what I was going to say, because I remember it's just about 4 years ago now. It was about 4 years ago now that you did your award, and then I remember we caught up afterwards. And one of the things that I was so happy about was there was yourself and then Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's obviously one of our course tutors now, who did the award, and you were so passionate about it. And as 2 gym owners, you were like, right, I'm going to be able to implement this. I've got all these ideas. I've got the MHEC frameworks for me to now be able to plug this into my gym. But it wasn't an immediate success. Both of you then felt there was this, right, okay, how do we now deliver this message so that people can see that they're coming here, not necessarily to get support with mental illness, but this is for anyone. Anyone can come along and improve the mental health through exercise. And you had that transition period where you really was like backs against the wall and having to be like, I need to be able to get this message absolutely bang on so that, you know, the gym can flourish. And you went through a period where it was really difficult. And I remember just being so grateful that you and Ben in particular, as well as now hundreds of other coaches for us, but you were some of the first people that did it, trusted in us and trusted in the message, and now it's, you know, now it's continuing to pay you off, and it will do for years to come. Whereas unfortunately what we do see is we train a lot of PTs, we'll train gym owners, and they will immediately, as soon as things start to get tough or they start to change their messaging, will default back to those previous ways of working where they'll share before and after pictures. And look, if they want to do that, that's fine. We're not criticising it. But they will then get confused in their own head because they do want to focus on mental health in a more holistic approach. They'll get confused by the rest of the fitness industry, telling them to do before and after pictures and going back to focus on body image metrics. And then that's the thing that gets them confused because they didn't just stick to their values. So how important has it been to you, because you've touched on it there, to be able to literally drown out the noise from what other gym owners are doing and what other PTs are doing? Because I know what the simple answer for us is, well, if you do things differently, then that's the thing that's unique about you. But how important has it been for you to be able to stick to those values and push through that when, I'll be honest, 99% of other PTs will continue just doing the broken way of marketing and working with their clients?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it that I probably was one of them for about 6 months, 7 months, where I had that mixed messaging. You know, I was at the other mentorship where we was being told, you can't do it this way, you can't do it this way, the industry doesn't allow you to do it this way, you've got to show results as before and afters. And I was probably, that's why I probably had the struggle, because I was not fully committed to the MHEC, I wasn't fully committed, I was dipping in both. And I think, you know, when I spoke to you and said I've left the mentorship, I need to fully commit, I think it's looking at the long term rather than the short term. You know, it took 3 to 4 months to kind of change that messaging before we started to see the results, and it was just tough to 3-4 months. You know, we at one stage we was down to, you know, only a handful of clients, but I always knew that, you know, once we kind of nailed the messaging, that, you know, we would build up the clients. It's almost starting again, and that's, you know, from 11 years ago. The experience doing it 11 years has probably helped, because I know the kind of journey of, you know, you're going to have bad months, you're going to really struggle to get that message in. The industry around here is flooded with gyms, it's a real fitness town, and you're the only one that's promoting something different. The good thing I like to see now is that a lot of these gyms have started to jump on the mental health, you know, and promote it, which is good. But we've now started changing our message that we're the only qualified mental health gym around here. It's okay speaking about it, but if you're still putting someone on a really low calorie diet, still doing before and afters, you're not actually looking at someone's mental health there, or you're doing a photo shoot for them, or, you know, kind of, you know, the norm of what the fitness industry. So, you know, it's kind of helped us to change our messaging a bit to kind of go against the local, you know, kind of gyms and PTs, and like you said, there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you want to go, but don't start to kind of promote something that you're actually not following through with. And I think once we started getting the people come on board, once they started talking about us, you know, there's nothing better than word of mouth and that honest approach from people who's actually been on the course or been in the gym. And I think once we got an X amount of people doing that, it was a lot easier. And I've said we just stuck to the messaging, or, you know, the same kind of messaging through the last X amount of years. And it's great now that we can kind of play around with our messaging to kind of challenge gyms, challenge PTs around here, even doing stuff like this, you know, talking about the difference of what we do to normal gyms is great, because I think the more we talk about it face to face with people, the better it is. You know, we can put stuff on social media, but one thing we made a commitment this year is for me to get out in the community and talk more in bigger groups, which, you know, I love doing now, and I think I'm confident about doing, because I've got the structure of the MHEC program behind the brand of the MHEC program. Is when I tried to do it in the past, when I didn't, I was a mental health gym, I was really quiet about it. Now I can actually, you know, promote it and say, you know, confidence that we're the only gym around here probably in the northwest that, you know, actually is qualified, and, you know, I've got the structures to actually help people.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's something that you've just touched on, a real frustration that Dan and I have with it. And we speak about this near enough every day. It's almost ironic that when we first started on this mission with MHEC, like I said a few minutes ago, the main challenge that we got was people saying, is this safe? Like, are you allowed to do this? Can this be done? Fast forward 4 years now, other places are now doing this, and we're almost now looking at them and going, well, are you doing it safely? Because, do you know what I mean? Because we like, and they're probably the same people that challenged us initially and saying, like, is this safe what you're doing? And I think it is good because more people are starting to look that way. But I think my concern with it is that it's a bandwagon that people are jumping on. It's a buzzword. They know that it sells. And that's why it's important to have the right structures, the right pillars, as you've said it, the right referral processes and procedures, the right education understanding around it, because it is a fine line. There's a lot that could potentially go wrong if it's not handled in the right way and you don't have the right support network around you to deliver these types of programmes. So thank you for touching on that. And I think I like how you've said it's now giving you the opportunity to maybe challenge some of the other gyms and personal trainers around here, because that's something I say to Dan quite a lot recently, where I'm like, take this in the right way. I'll say, we need to go in the attack more. We need to challenge more, because there's a lot of people out there that talk about, oh, they coach mental health and mindset. And it's like, well, what does that actually mean? What does that mean to you? Without really knowing the true meanings and understandings behind it. Anyway, I digress. What I thought would be a good chance to do now is kind of, obviously we've talked a bit more about your journey, your past, your history and your experiences. So up to the present day, over the last couple of years, you've went through quite a big change here at the gym, where you've now set up your own community interest company, looking at supporting members within the community. I know you've got some really cool links in with the council. You're running an alcohol recovery programme now. So do you want to give us a bit more information around how that's going for you so far?
Yeah, again, it's been almost a separate journey on its own from the gym side of it. I remember speaking, I think it was one of the live events we did, the MHEC. I remember speaking to, I think it was Paula, who had their own CIC in Wakefield. And my thing was, how can I get to more vulnerable people? And I had a meeting with a counsellor in here, and it was, you need to be a CIC to get referrals and so on. So I did a bit of research and jumped 2 feet in, like I always do. It didn't go to plan. I actually thought, you've got a great programme. And I was at a council meeting the other day with public health, and I was like, I actually come in this sector because I've got a great programme. We know it works. We've got impact reports, testimonials, anything you want. It's a different approach than the normal approach to mental health. And I said, but I feel like we're still proving ourselves. We're still banging on that wall with, what we can do and how we can do it. So it took a little bit of time, but I think it was probably mid last year where, I kind of knocked on enough doors and kind of spoke up a lot in a lot of events and council events where they kind of trialled us. They did a test and learn for 10 people. And a good way for us, but in a sad way at the time, that the first 2 people that joined was suicidal. And the impact of that, we helped them really well. We did a lot of impact reports off it, and the 2 guys that have come in, are still doing really well now. But that kind of catapulted us in a way. I didn't actually think the MBH program was, going to be for people for suicide. It was always a prevention, but it just goes to prove that we always said that we can work with anybody because it's so bespoke, and we can help that individual in any way. So that was the kind of first test and learn. We knocked that out of the park, and in the meantime we've had other things going on with a couple of the test and learns, and then again kind of what started to happen because the branding started to grow around here was PT started to approach me to work. PT had a lot of life experience or lived experience, and Chris, who's one of our coaches, he's come from his own addiction, from being in a gym environment to going to steroids to trying to, he literally shouldn't be alive today, and his story is, a testament to him from where he's come. And he mentioned that he wanted to do something around mental health, and probably where I was 6-7 years ago. So we talked about the MHEC program and what's his passion, and his passion was, I want to work with drug and alcohol addiction. So we started to look down that route of how can we support Chris with all our systems, that, you know, the MHEC pillars and everything, but actually give him a group of people that he's really passionate about, that he really wants to help. And we've just come to our 12-week trial of that. We've smashed that out of the park again, and we're having conversations. We want a 3-year, 4-year project off that with the council. But what we've found now, we've got other PTs coming with lived experience, where exercise have either saved their lives or improved their lives massively, and want to kind of work with a group of people. And now we're starting to see that our program change a little bit, where we go, you know, this PT wants to work with this kind of client. Let's support this PT and let them work with people that they're passionate about, and all we're there is then to a support basis. But yeah, in the last 2 years we've got a kids half-term programs. We're looking at going into send kids soon. We're just kind of writing up a project around that. We've been approached to go in schools a lot. We've got a normal program, drug and alcohol. And we go into charities, working alongside them, offering parts of our MBH program, if it's the well-being speaking side of it, or it's the exercise and stuff. I'm there this afternoon doing one. So yeah, it's kind of, you know, I always say the MBH or the MHEC pillars are there, but it kind of branches off into many other projects, which, you know, from when I come back into the MHEC, I remember saying to you, I just want a gym program that I can run and manage, and, you know, within 12 months it was like, I don't want a gym program now, I want a well-being program that supports the community in different ways, and we're slowly getting there.
Mate, honestly, it's brilliant. Honestly, I just had such a big smile on my face there as well, because this is why we love doing this as well, because, you know, you've literally like brought up an example there of these 2 individuals that came to you who were suicidal, and, you know, like you said, you were completely right there. Like, we need to know what's within our scope of practice, and a lot of people may think that, well, MHEC's more of, like you said, it's more of a preventionary thing and more of an intervention thing as opposed to like a longer term management thing. But for us to then come down and hear this and hear these stories of these 2 individuals who we've never met before, not for us to take credit for it, because it's you and it's your gym and it's your program and it's your mind body health program, but to know that MHEC played a part in that it's incredible, because it shows us what's going on behind the scenes, and every single day we've now got coaches all over the country doing this work. Say for example then, we've got someone watching this and they are listening to what you're saying and they are like, I want to do this. I'm not in the fitness industry yet, but I'm thinking about being in the fitness industry, but I don't just want to work on the gym floor. I care about the community. I care about maybe going into schools. I care about liaising with charities. Or you've got an individual who is within the fitness industry and knows they're capable of doing so much more. Like what you said, you spoke to Ben a couple of years ago and said, just give me like the perfect gym program and then we'll just, you know, we'll smash that out of the park. Then you realised, well, actually, look at all these other amazing things that I can do. So there may be a coach kind of in that position, knowing where they want to go, but not really knowing how to get there. What would you say to some of those people when it comes to how fulfilling this work is? Because like, even like when you're talking about all the stuff you're doing, you know, you've got a smile on your face, like it's not just doing stuff within the gym, it's out with the gym, it's stuff that's having a real impact in your communities in lots of different ways. Like the variation, like the variety of what you're doing is massive. So tell us a little bit about how fulfilling and rewarding that is for you, because you're now doing the thing that you've been wanting to do for years.
Yeah, I think the MHEC program gives you that flexibility to adjust to anything. If it's kids, if it's, you know, sporting environment, it gives you the tools and the systems to do that. But I think the fulfilling bit for me is, you know, when a client finishes here, you know, I always say I don't want you to be here long term. I want you to go off and if it's going to another gym, we'll support you that transition. But when a client comes back in X amount of times just saying everything's great, I'm still loving life, and or this drop us a message and say, you know, without you, you saved our life and things like that. I think you don't see that with a before and after, or you don't see that with a normal fitness industry. You know, we have loyal clients what's been with us 8 or 9 years, which is great, and we get them friendships, but you generally don't get that impact of a, you know, thanks you've saved my life, or thanks you've changed my life for the best, or, you know, 6, 7 years down the line, I'm still doing everything that you taught me. I think when you hear that, you know, all the journey, all the stress, everything we've been doing for the last X amount of years just goes, you know, if it's just one person, we've done it, we've changed one person's life. But I think, you know, over the next X amount of years, I think as we get in more the community side of it, I think that's when we're going to go, wow, we've not just one person now, we've changed hundreds of people's, you know, views on mental health and how to approach it. I think the big thing as well, what's come out of it is now we're getting system change locally. As I said, we got hit back from, you know, you're not a counsellor, you've got to go through CBT counselling, you've got to do this. Now we're actually going, we're now changing the NHS and stuff, and now looking at exercise, which hopefully then will have a bigger impact in the community where we can deliver stuff as well. So yeah, I think them messages are vital for us.
I'll wait till you sit down. So you've given us a really good kind of clear picture of your journey up to the present day, like we said earlier, your history, your experiences that's led you up to this point. So in terms of starting to look ahead to the future, like it'd be really good for us to hear what you've got planned, any goals that you're looking to set up for yourself. Obviously, if there's anything you can't talk about just now, then you don't need to drop any bombshells on us just now. But looking ahead, what are you excited most about when it comes to mind-body health?
I think for me, we've got a clear vision now of where we want to go and how it's going to grow and how we can get in the community in a different way than just having one facility. So the idea we've worked with the council is we want a wellbeing hub. So it's got a gym environment, it's got a classroom environment. You know, we've got more than just you come to a gym and stuff. But then we're looking at little hubs potted around the community where it'll be a small room environment where our PTs come out. If the plan is to get them all trained up MHEC, so hopefully in a few years' time we'll have probably the most MHEC coaches in one area. That's the plan. But giving this as a part of a recovery plan for people or people who are struggling with the mental health, people with referrals from doctors, people on waiting lists. So these are dotted around, so it's not them coming to us. We'll actually go to them. And getting the backing of the council will be, you know, to kind of put this forward is where we see this going. So hopefully that's the plan with that. We've also, you know, it's said we're branching out. We're going to be looking at the SEND kids, which is, again, Lee works with us, our counsellor. He's passionate about working with these kids. So we want to support him in you know, creating this SEND programme. We've got other corporate stuff now, which is starting to take off. We found like, again, the corporate world with stress management and the mental health struggles in especially the big industry, that there's not a lot out there at the moment. There's a lot of box ticking. We see that, so we've kind of created our own corporate wellbeing program. And this week we've launched, it's kind of an online 5-tier learning program, which one of the big corporate companies actually worked with us over the last 12 months and built for us. So hopefully we can get that out in the industry for people who, you know, don't work in a you know, an office environment. We've got, you know, a corporate industry where they've got 50, 60 staff working abroad, so we can actually send that to them, and it's a self-development kind of e-learning. So it's just constantly growing. But I think, you know, locally, I think for me, it's having a wellbeing hub, not just a gym. So people come for different reasons, different, you know, help, and then having these small pockets of, we don't know what to do, but little wellbeing hubs or little wellbeing places where people can come in and book in, almost like a one-on-one counselling call, but it's a one-on-one gym session, MHEC session, and that's where we kind of see this growing locally, and hopefully, you know, it may be something that, you know, we could grow nationally if it kind of works. And I think even, you know, getting the right PTs where they've got that passion to work with a group, if we can put them in a, you know, in a sector of the town where, you know, we'll use the drug and alcohol. We've got a lot of great drug and alcohol recovery places dotted around. So we have our own base in them places, then, you know, it stops the barriers of them coming to us. We can actually go to them and deliver, you know, what we want to deliver on that. So yeah, we see it growing all the time. And again, from when our first conversation, I was like, I just want a gym. Now we're going like, you know, we want to take over the community and offer lots of different programs. And I think that's just come naturally. It's not been forced. It's been, we love what you're doing. Can you do it in this sector? And it's like, yeah, we're confident that we can. Let's trial and error it. And so we've kind of knocked out the park with everything we've done. I don't give myself big pats on the back normally, but I think because now we're having these big conversations with public health and the council and stuff, you know, there was over 250, 300 people there over there, and I was the only one from this sector, and one speaking from this sector where actually, you know, if people like myself isn't speaking about change of the system, it's never going to be changed. And I think now we're getting some of the big people at the top now going, there needs to be a change, and exercise. Again, thankfully, the industry started to promote it. They started listening to the industry, maybe 2 or 3 years later than what we wanted, but we're getting there. And I think once the kind of council makes that change, or you know, public health starts to make that change, or the NHS, once a big organisation like that does, I think, you know, locally and nationally, we're going to see the kind of floodgates open and go, this needs to be offered out. And I think I was at one last year in Salford, and it was called the trialling with doctors that have movement therapy. So they were trialling that. You go in, see a doctor, they prescribe some kind of movement, linking with gyms, walking groups, before you go to medication or CBT, because there's 8-9 month wait anyway on CBT. And we're back next year to kind of see if that's worked with them. So we're seeing it in the big cities, you know, in Manchester and that, and hopefully that'll kind of drip down to the smaller towns like ourselves. So it's exciting times. I think, you know, from where we've come, where it was banging against the wall, and now we can see the future kind of changing, which is good for us. And hopefully when it does, we'll be kind of the top of the kind of, just because we are the only qualified. And like I said, there's a lot of people talking about it, but actually when they need that qualification, or they need to prove what they've been doing for X amount of years, they've got nothing behind them, and I think that's where we'll kind of excel over the next few years.
Yeah, mate, honestly, I'm just sitting there with a massive smile on my face. It's so good. And
Cheshire cat.
I know, I'm just, big cheesy grin on my face listening to it. And what I think is great as well is, like, I know you said you don't give yourself a pat on the back that often, but, you know, we are your biggest supporters. And, you know, every time Ben jumps off a call with you, like, he'll be saying about all the stuff that you're doing, and that brings me into the fold. And what is so amazing now is just the confidence behind it as well, because you've seen it, it's a snowball. It's an absolute ripple effect. As soon as you've got one deal, then that opens the door to another deal, which opens the door to another sector, which opens the door to another opportunity. And what you've really started to see now is it's snowballing. And I think a lot of coaches or PTs will be worried about doing something like this because they think, oh, it's got all these different arms and legs, and how am I going to manage all of it, and it'll be confusing. Whereas actually what you're showing is one will benefit the other, which will facilitate an opportunity within the other, which is really cool. One of the things that I think is really interesting and amazing for us to hear as well is you're talking about how now this isn't you just going and knocking on doors and begging people to listen to your solution like what we've been doing for the last 5 years. People are now starting to approach you, and people are now starting to listen, and they're really starting to hear. You've talked about the council looking at changing policy. You've spoken about the NHS looking actually at what they're doing and why is it not working and how this can work instead. This is going to be a really obvious thing for us, but it would be great to hear it from you. When it comes to systems that aren't working at the moment, when it comes to healthcare provision, when it comes to mental health support having a massive waiting list, when it comes to, for example, what we're talking about on the way down, about the government not even looking at mental health and potentially actually cutting budgets for mental health support again, why for you is mental health and exercise coaching and the provision of exercise as an intervention, as management, as treatment for physical illness, mental illness, why does that work? And why is that just a no-brainer for us that we need to be rolling this out across our community so that we can have earlier interventions with people with their mental health?
Yeah, I think it's kind of going back to the NHS and the bigger organisation. At the moment, it's about, you know, kind of stemming that tide, what's been there for years, and we're being underlooked at, you know, the prevention side of it. And I think, again, over the next few years, hopefully the pots of money will come in for the prevention, because, you know, the next generation is going to be the next tidal wave, what we're going to be stemming. So I think it has been a bit of a 3-4 years, especially after COVID, where it has been about trying to stem the tide with that. And I think for exercise, I think for me personally, that transition from sport, it's always a struggle for any sportsmen and women. Thankfully, I went into a gym environment, you know, within months. That was probably the constant thing I had in my kind of journey with 3-4 years. You know, things were breaking up outside of, you know, my life, but that transition was the only thing I kept constant in. That was exercise. So I think everybody's journey starts, you know, everybody comes to you because they've got their own story and why exercise has helped them. We can go into all the science and stuff, but actually I think we know it works, and if you support someone with the pillars around that, exercise is the biggest pillar, I think, even if it's just walking groups and, you know, whatever you find that helps you. But I think you do need them support pillars and everything else that goes around it to help them to not just use exercise to feel good, but actually to give them the tools to actually go, you know what, you don't have to go to the doctors again, you don't have to rely on tablets, you don't have to rely on CBT counselling again. It's actually, you know, with everything, you actually could come out back of this with the tools that are going to help you to thrive in life, rather than that stop-start of back to the doctors, that cycle that, you know, we'd speak to a counsellor with, that, you know, they go off something after 6 weeks and then they're back into the system, to the cycle, and that's the system change that we want to put in, that, you know, to prevent that cycle. But I think exercise, it's that personal story of how it's helped me, every individual that's been on the MHEC programme, and I think once you kind of connect your own kind of story to that, I think it's really easy to kind of push that into people or show people that how good is exercise.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, the thing I love about everything that you've said this morning is like what I was saying to Dan yesterday about the fact that you've kind of taken the MHEC tools and frameworks, applied your own vision and your own spin to it, to really create what you've now got. And why I'm saying, like, I think it's just like the perfect example of the possibilities that you could do if you choose to go down this route when it comes to mental health and exercise, and the impact that you can have in the community and the doors that it opens and the fulfillment that you can get from it. So I think if there's one piece of advice, either if you want to frame it to your younger self when you started out on this journey, for anyone that's watching this at home or listening to this at home, if there's one piece of advice that you could give someone that is maybe starting to think about a career in the industry, or maybe starting to think about their changing their approach when it comes to coaching, if they're already in the industry, what would that be and why?
I think it's why you want to change, why you want to work with that kind of people, why we want to work with mental health. I think having that deeper rooted why is going to help you over them hurdles, bumps and challenges along the way. We know opening any business is challenging anywhere, but you know, the fitness industry, you're competing into a massive online market now, which is droning out with the typical stuff. So I think if you've got that kind of deeper rooted why, it's always going to help you over them kind of hurdles. And again, if it's, you know, your own backstory, if it's, you know, family story, family issues, I think, you know, connecting that to whatever it is, if it's coaching kids, if it's a gym, if it's, you know, whatever you want to do, I think connecting that to it is going to help you, because it is tough, you know. But I think for me, it was always the long game. And I think that may be just the kind of sports mentality for me, that you know, we know it's going to be peaks and troughs. But having that kind of long game, that long goal, that long why is always going to be there to kind of focus on it and kind of realign to what we're doing. And it's going to change, it's going to evolve. You know, over the next 6 months, it's going to change again. But I think we've got that vision now where we want to go and why we want to do it. It's the outer values that we built. Yeah. You know, so you know, that was a long time ago, and it's changed so many times. Again, we did that many years ago, and you know, within 3 months it changed, and it's changed many times. So thinking that kind of outer values of what, you know, what we stand for as a gym, what I stand for as a person, what everybody works for me stands for, then you know, that's going to only, you know, catapult us in years to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's brilliant. No, I think it's absolutely amazing, mate. And I think what's really cool about where you are as well is I have conversations with individuals, again, wanting to join the fitness industry, or individuals who've already been in the fitness industry and are looking for a new shift in direction, whether they are unfulfilled, whether they know that they can be doing more, whether they realise that they're not really operating to their values, like you said, and they're maybe adopting different values that the fitness industry has taught them. You know, they're comparing themselves to other coaches and focusing on the wrong things. or they just feel like they've got a little bit lost in the fitness industry. It maybe wasn't what they thought it was going to be, and they're looking kind of for this new kind of shift and this new pivot. I'm having conversations with these coaches, every single day, and what I love about it is you're walking the walk, you're doing the things. I'm telling them, look, we've got this coach who's a graduate, he's down at Wigan, and actually now he's having people get funded through the program. That's like the dream for some people, and you're actually doing it, which is, again, it's down to your drive and everything, which I think is really cool. Now, you might not be able to give too much away about how the kind of the technicalities of that relationship works when it comes to maybe like council or getting funded and things like that. But one of the things that you have done massively when it comes to branching out, like you said, is knocking on doors and going and approaching people. Now, I know that you've got the MHEC certification to support your work. So going and knocking on doors without that is pretty difficult. So if we've got any of our MHEC coaches watching, or anyone else who've already got this certification who are now looking to branch out and go into their communities, what advice would you give to them when it comes to putting yourself out there and really utilising the full use of the certification, and going out and securing deals and partnerships and maybe getting access to grants and funding and that side of things?
Yeah, that was a big learning curve, again, because I was like, I've got a program here, people are going to be jumping on from the council, and but there was a lot of, does it work? Can you prove yourself? We've never heard of anything like this. But I think having the MHEC program, the qualification, the brand, I think it was a confidence in me. It was an easy, I don't like to say sell, but it was an easy pitch. And to be honest, there was only a handful of people that challenged us on it. We actually went, what are your qualifications? What does this stand for? But again, having that qualification, it's this, and this is what we've been doing. I think the confidence in me was easier, and it's grown over the last 12, 18 months. I think if it had been years ago, I've been running a gym program. I'm trying to work with people. Now I'm like, we have got this. We've saved 2 people's lives last year. We're working with people with anxiety, depression, and it just kind of rolls a little bit more that we've got the quality to prove it. The kind of referral system, which is we're still working with now, I'm still banging on them doors, this year, but I think we're getting some great system change slowly. Referral system's been a learning curve because you come from link workers, they come from, doctors' surgeries and these health, kind of surgeries. And we found that there's not a lot of information sharing. And again, this is some system change that we want to kind of implement. That we've got a lot of great health services around here, but actually we're all working against each other. So actually, why work together? To help the individual. Essentially that's what we're all here to do. But we had, I think, 25 last year from referrals or test and learns. We're on about 6 or 7 this year, and we're going to be trialling up for next month a massive kind of test and learn with the council where, the actual individual will get to pick us as an option rather than they get put in an option. So I think, again, as we grow and kind of our name grows, that we're probably going to get a lot more people coming through the referrals, but it's not going to be that a link workers forced them or pushed them into it because they've been told that it's a mental health program. It's actually, they're actually going to do a bit of research. We'll help them and speak to them, but they'll actually choose to come to us. And I think that's going to be a massive game changer for us to work with people that have probably got a lot more complex needs than kind of a normal clients that come through. But ultimately that they're choosing to come to us rather than they've been referred or been, kind of not told the full story of what we do here. So hopefully I'm excited for that over the next couple of months. That's going to be, again, big system change.
Yeah, it sounds class, and it's really nice for us to hear as well, like you getting so passionate about the work that you're doing and going in and having these referral processes, knocking the doors of people, getting the message out there around what you do. Because for us, like anyone that we speak to for the first time about what we do, immediately they're like, oh my God, this is amazing, this is brilliant. And to hear you get that same experience as well is incredible. So I think the only frustrating thing that I have with that is like so many people love what we're doing, but I feel like we're still coming up against a lot of barriers, even though we talk about the importance of exercising for mental health, the benefits of exercise on that, the impact that we can have on people. there are still some barriers and resistance that we're coming up against. That might be red tape, bureaucracy, policy, that type of things. Is there any barriers that you can, not to be a Debbie Downer, but is there any is there any barriers that you can see on the horizon, like with this vision that you've got? Are there any barriers that you can see that could potentially get in your way that you're really looking to change and overcome?
Yeah, I think you nailed them all there. Red tape is a big one, especially if you're going down the referrals and groups and organisations. But I think the potential one is the funding. It's being cut in all aspects. So it's what I found coming into this sector was you can't have a programme that lasts 6, 12 months, 18 months for an individual. It's got to be 10 weeks, 12 weeks. And we're still getting that now. And we're doing great stuff in 10 or 12 weeks. But ultimately, you know that an individual comes in, it takes as long, you know, what that individual needs. It's not, we've got 10 weeks, we have 12 weeks. So that's been a barrier and still is a bit of a barrier. But again, with the new test and learn we'll be doing, hopefully that'll come where the individual can stay in as long as they need to. And it's the individual's choice to finish when they need to. But I do think it's going to be all about the funding side of it. And how that looks for not just us, for any organisation in the CIC world and the charity world. But I think for us it's having that kind of, again, that business plan for the next 3 to 5 years where we don't have to rely on the funding. You know, we want to kind of come out the funding side of it where, you know, the main programme will kind of support the groups itself, where we're not waiting 3 months to get an answer back or the red tape to come back or to challenge us on something. Actually, we'll set our own up, and you know, you guys will come running to us when, you know, we've got 30 people on drug and alcohol working for us, working with us, that, you know, we're having great results, or we've got a group here where we're working with. I think once we get that, we don't have to rely on that, and we kind of take away all them challenges. But I think in the next 6 to 12 months, I think that's going to be probably the barrier with what we found, and that's coming from the meetings that we're finding in now. That, and it's not just our sector. It looks like it's going to be a lot of sectors, but I think for us is proving what we do for the pound. You know, it always comes back to the pound. You know, I don't know the impact reports on the people we work with at the moment, but we're saving a hell of a lot of money to the government and the NHS. So I think once we kind of nail that side of it, which I hate talking about because it's a human being, it's not a figure, it's not a pound. And that's why I kind of like to put the human side of it with videos and testimonials to each report, because I think once you take the human side of it, it just kind of goes down to how much is they're saving the NHS or the government. So I think that's probably the one I see. But again, I think we're in a good position to kind of come away from that eventually. I think once we kind of get a couple of big longer term contracts with the council, which is what we're talking to them about, it's kind of going to get us away for that. So it's their investment, which we talk about with them, that are actually only going to benefit them in the long run, because we're not going to be coming back for any investment off them, and we'll be taking over the groups and everything away from them. So I think that's how we've approached it with them, that you invest in us now, it's only going to benefit you in the future.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that, because this is something we said before as well. It's not like when we pitch to corporate. So when we are, you know, a lot of the time when we're talking about the benefit of the MHEC award, it's, well, how much money is this going to make me? How much money is going to save me? And again, it's not we don't want to look at the cost, like, you know, in pounds, like you said, it's like the cost on lives. And that's the thing that we need to be focused on. And look, it is frustrating, like you said, don't to be a Debbie Downer, but it's not that. I think for me, like, yeah, bigger picture is, it's quite scary to look at those facts that fucking budgets are being slashed once again. But what's amazing is we've got people like you who are, you know, leading the way, who are taking initiative and are going out and are not, I wouldn't even call it taking risks anymore. You're putting yourself out there and being like, this works. This is what we're doing every single day. This works. Let me go and prove it to you. And then I think that actually adds fuel to our fire even more, that, look, we've got all the odds stacked up against us, but let's go and let's prove these people wrong and show, you know, them what we can do. So, mate, honestly, we're so proud of you. Like, it's absolutely amazing. Like, I love going out, and like, I can't believe this is the first time we've came to, you know, your gym. Like, you know, we've wanted, I know we've wanted to do it for a while, but you know what, actually it's perfect timing as well, because to come down now and hear all the amazing things that you're doing, for us it's so rewarding. Hopefully you don't mind me speaking for yourself, but when we did this and we went on our first roadshow, we went up to Aberdeen, we met with some of our coaches doing amazing things, and it's just so brilliant and so rewarding. Not that we need a reminder, but to be able to remind us, like, this is the impact that it's having. And even just those 2 individuals, and now you know you're going to be working with dozens more who are going through these things, and your facility and your program is providing something that they're not getting elsewhere, and it fucking works. It's amazing, honestly. It's absolutely incredible. So we don't have much longer. We've only got a couple minutes, so we're going to finish on a slightly different note. So we did this in a couple of the interviews that we when we went on the road before. I'm going to try not to put you on the spot, but we're going to have but we've got a couple of quick fire questions, right? A couple of quick fire questions. So we're going to look at advice for the general public, advice for PTs, that side of things. So what is, if you could tell anyone who's looking to get into exercise just now, they're maybe not in the best place physically, mentally, they want to make a change to their lives, what is the number one piece of advice you would give them?
Find something you enjoy, find a group that is going to support you. That first step's always the hardest, so if it's something that you're interested, if it's walking, find a walking buddy. That's all it takes. If it's, you know, playing football or sport, find a local team that's going to support. The more people you've got supporting you, the easier that transition is, and then you can move on to the next step.
Love it. Brilliant.
So simple.
So simple. What's the, if it's something different, slightly similar, but hopefully something different to this, what's the number one piece of health advice that you've been given by somebody else?
Ooh. It's a tough one, that one. I think it's just kind of understanding that each day can't be perfect. So that Lee, our counsellor, is talking about not trying to be the best every day. It's just trying to do your best every day. So, you know, you're always going to have them great days. You're not always going to repeat them great days. So a good day or doing your best may just actually be an average day or a good day, but understanding that you've done your best that day, and that goes for everybody. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Love that. That's why I want to put you on the spot as well, because that's when the
tough one.
That's when the gold comes out.
He usually quotes himself.
Yeah, I should have quoted myself. Can't steal it.
2 more now for individuals within the fitness industry, or again looking to get into the fitness industry. What's the number one piece of advice you would give to an individual who is looking to become a PT or has just started their journey as a PT?
I think it's getting the qualifications a big thing, but actually getting on the gym floor, working with that kind of client or the kind of clients you want. It's a totally different experience from passing to actually working with individuals. I think get as many hours under your belt, get the support. I think it's a lonely place being a PT, so actually surrounding yourself with a support is a big one as well.
Yeah, brilliant, especially with the amount of people that are joining the fitness industry and immediately wanting to go online or thinking about transition online after 1 year. It's like, no, you need to put the reps in yourself first. Brilliant. Last piece of advice for you to give anyone watching this. What's the number one piece of business advice you've ever been given?
Wrong person. God, I wouldn't know about that one. I think for me, I am one of them. I do jump into things and kind of work my own way around it. But I think, you know, get the right people around you. I think that's the one. You can't do everything yourself. It takes twice as long, 3 times as long. So get the right people to support you if you can do, which I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Get the right people that can do the job better.
Yeah, brilliant, mate. Well, listen, honestly, like we said, we're so proud of everything that you're doing. It's amazing. It's been incredible to hear it, and there are going to be so many people that are inspired by this as well. You're doing so many good things. Like I said, honestly, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for trusting in us and just fucking pushing through. And now it's paying you back massively.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what would be nice for us is maybe make a commitment now to come back in a year's time and just see what everything's happened in a year's time and see some of those visions. See if some of those visions came to light. But yeah, mate, thank you. Honestly, it's an honour and privilege to be working with you on this stuff, and it's so cool to see the journey that you've been on and still are on. So looking forward to seeing what the next 12 months brings you.
Yeah, mate, I appreciate it. And I think from you guys, it's not just an MHEC qualification, it's the support we get as graduates. I think, you know, the amount of times we've had our one-on-ones and I've splurted everything out. You've almost been a counsellor sometimes, but I think it's just having that support for us as well, because it is a tough industry and it is, you know, like I say, you're going against it, but actually having you guys there to support us, we want to be here. I tried it on my own and it's a lonely, lonely place, and being around all the other graduates as well who are on their journey. So again, it's kind of surrounding yourself with the right people.
I didn't know if you were recording.
We've had an update.
We've had an update. Since we recorded the podcast earlier with Stephen had to go into Wigan to go for a meeting, found out some really exciting news that we thought we'd stitch in and add in. So Stephen, do you want to give everyone your new title?
I'd like a new title, don't we? I think we talked about before about how we can integrate the MHEC into anything. So we've just come off a meeting that we'll be starting next month. Hopefully that will be the new wellbeing coordinator officer for refugees integrating into Wigan, and they'll be visiting the gym and a mental health and exercise programme, which will be 95% built by us and run by us as well for a 2-year project. So
how cool is that?
A new one, an interesting one and a challenging one, but looking forward to it. It's great.
MHEC. Well done, mate. That's amazing.
Phenomenal. Right, man. Good man. Well done, bro. Thanks for that. That was class.
Oh, what are you doing? You know what you're doing, you two.